Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Friendly Film Take, the Film News Blitz podcast for friendly film debate and film discussion with me, Dan Lawrence, and regular co-host, I guess we could say now, because this is your third or fourth appearance.
Number 3, yeah.
Number 3, Rhys Stacey, not a disgraced Tory MP, as someone on TikTok commented on one of our reels, but actually a lovely person.
Anyway.
How are you, Rhys?
I am very well, Daniel. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know why I was just smushing my face on camera, but there we go. Well, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about two films that we've both, we've seen. Two of us have seen one of them, and one of us has seen the other.
Yes.
Unless you're holding your cards close to your chest about.
I'm going to go based off your review for if I watched this film that
Okay, cool. So the two films we talk about are Bugonia, the latest Yorgos Lanthimos film. Probably butchered the pronunciation of his surname there. And Frankenstein of Guillermo del Toro, who's now one of the sort of Netflix sort of entrapped auteurs, I suppose you could say. Well, he's probably willingly a part of the big streaming gang. So we're going to talk about those two films, our thoughts, our feelings. And maybe touch on a couple of films that we're intrigued to see. Should we just get into it? Should we get into it?
Let's do it.
I think we should talk about Bugonia first, because, well, there's a lot to talk about with this film. Very peculiar film. Yes, as we say, Yorgos Lanthimos, who's made films like The Lobster, The Favourite, Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness. Those last two, both featuring Emma Stone, who comes back. Well, actually, Emma Stone's in The Favourite as well. Emma Stone's in a lot of films. They seem to be sort of a good one of those director-actor partnerships, and it's yielding well for both parties. Emma Stone now she's got 2 Oscars now.
2 Oscars.
Yes, so she's doing well. Yes, Emma Stone stars in this film. It's written by Will Tracy, who wrote Succession and The Menu, other things like that. I just did a very brief IMDb on him.
I can tell. It was very, very well informed.
Yes, this is very, as you would expect from the director, a very peculiar, quirky, pretty much swinging for the fences film called Bugonia, where Emma Stone plays this like CEO who's kidnapped by Jesse Plemons and the debuting Aidan Delbis.
IMDb still up.
Yes, it is. That's what I'm looking at. Anyway, 2 cousins who believe Emma Stone's character to be an alien, but they want to contact the mothership and negotiate the sort of the survival of the human race, essentially.
Ultimately,
trap her in a basement. I guess we should talk about it in a spoiler-free context to begin with, but I think we're going to have to talk about it in a spoilery context because I have interesting feelings about it. But talk me through your cinema experience, when you went to see it, where, and how you felt overall about the film.
So we went on down to the Streatham Odeon, which famously at this point, especially on weekdays, does not draw crowds.
Okay.
You had that through line with this film as well, because I think Yorgos has become a big enough name that you know to expect. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. He's going to be slightly off-putting for a super mainstream audience. I think it's mainstream filmmaking now, but I do think it's kind of love it or hate it type stuff. So we had not a lot of people in the screening. It was a Wednesday evening. It kicked off at 9, and within the first hour, we did have 2 couples leave, step away. I don't think it was a challenging film. I don't think it's his most. If anything, it's one of his more accessible films.
I would agree.
I think if you take something like The Lobster, which I think is his most accessible film, and this one potentially The Favourite as well, it felt like that. So yeah, I think there's a curiosity to it. There was a lot of viewing times across the week or so that it's been out, which makes me happy. Because am I happy that it's as bonkers as it is, and it's as out there as it is, and it does get the airtime that it gets? Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we need more films like this. I just have certain reservations on the film itself. The dark comedy, there's a moment there's two moments with a police officer, for example, that had me absolutely howling, because you got a setup to a joke that you didn't want to be a joke, and then you get the payoff to the joke, which again you didn't want it to actually be a joke, or to actually exist. Hilarious, fantastic. There's elements of it which are brilliant, but then there are elements of it that are silly for the sake of being silly. It sort of fell under for me, it fell under the weight of its own premise. I don't know if that's how you felt as well.
Yes, and I think we're going to probably delve more into that when we get to the spoiler commentary. But I think we had different cinema experiences. So I went to see it on a Saturday afternoon, the day before recording, a 2:15 screening in Odeon Salisbury, but in a pokey little screen that has maybe, I hasten to say, 30 seats max, but it feels more like 20 when you're in there. Tiny little screen, and it was pretty well populated. You know, there was a good smattering of people in all the rows.
Good.
And nobody left. We had a couple of people go to the loo, but
That's fun.
Quite strange that this cinema screening actually has the toilets are in the back, so you don't actually.
I know the one. Yeah, I know the one you mean.
So, which is the case in two screens in Odeon Salisbury. There's obviously the big screen one, which has the toilets, and then the Diddy screen 5 that peculiarly has toilets in the back. Anyway, not that important. I would agree, especially if you put this film up against something like Poor Things, it definitely feels more accessible.
Sure.
I think it's also, after that film, which feels quite, that was quite grand in terms of its production design, art direction, scale, and even to some extent, you could say a film like The Favourite, which is, we've got that's quite big, grand, opulent,
yeah.
Given it's that sort of period drama sort of thing vibe that he was going for. This is a much more smaller scale film. It's really just the three characters by Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, and was it Aidan Delbis, the newcomer to the scene. So I quite enjoyed that. I quite like it when you have a small film where you've only got like a really tight knit group of characters that are all connecting. So that I've really enjoyed. Like you say, I enjoy. Yorgos Lanthimos has become one of these filmmakers, like an Ari Aster, who is one of these crazy sort of independent thinkers and minds, but has become mainstream in terms of them being held up as part of the cinema experience. Like, if you pay for a ticket, you're going to get some bang for your buck. You're going to get some meat to chew on, which I think is good. And you probably put them up there with like Luca Guadagnino, filmmakers like that, and then on a bigger scale, filmmakers like Denis Villeneuve, Christopher Nolan. So that is also good. I had a really engaged audience around me as well, who were, I think, as the filmmaker intended, emotionally responding as you'd want. So that really was enjoyable as well as an experience. I also thought phenomenally acted, which shouldn't really be a surprise from Emma Stone, and it shouldn't really be a surprise from Jesse Plemons, who is basically a walking, talking chameleon. His character
just absorbs into it.
It's like he's presented as this conspiracy theorist, detached from the sort of connected world, isn't he? So he's he completely inhabits that with quite frightening accuracy. Whereas he's an actor where you don't see Jesse Plemons, you see the character 100%.
I'm going to go so far as to say that Jesse Plemons is, at the moment, the best character actor. If you jump across the film from Breaking Bad to Game Night to this, like just the characters that he plays and the physical transformation as well. Because by and large, he's not changing that much, but it's the way that he holds himself. Or certainly in this film, it's very noticeable that the way, like muscular with his face, that it's he inhabits those characters very, very well. It's not I'm watching Jesse Plemons, it's I'm absolutely buying that character.
Yeah. And then the actor, I'm not going to butcher his name a third time because I keep getting it wrong, but the actor playing his cousin, that's an incredible performance as well. I thought, and his character, who was, I guess, quite clearly presenting some form of autism, was really believable, really endearing, and a really interesting sort of. He was used really cleverly as the counterpoint between Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons in terms of the pendulum swinging in the film of who you wanted to side with or who was in the right, who was in the wrong. It was kind of sort of seen through his.
I completely agree.
Limited knowledge of actually what was going on, and mainly from just his eyes and the way his face.
Yeah, he didn't have to say anything.
Easy body language shifting around because obviously his character was told to sort of keep his mouth shut as well by his cousin. So that I thought was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. I think at this point we should maybe talk spoilery.
Fair.
To talk about, I guess, the film in more certain ways. And what I'll do is when I'm in the edit, folks, there will be just here, I'll put a timestamp of where you can skip to go past these spoilers. So
she's an alien.
Yes. Let's talk about that first. The ending. Okay, give me your thoughts.
I think I knew going into the film that she was an alien because I had it spoiled for me. I don't think that ruined the experience for me because I really don't mind spoilers because I typically use it as like I'm interested to see how we're going to get here. Okay. So there was, I don't know, a big joy in watching Emma Stone and the way that she was inhabiting her human character, and the kind of the incredible performance that she gives, knowing that at a certain point you are going to get that revelation. I think the revelation itself was fantastic because it happened in 3 moments in the film, very, very clear. The scene where she's strapped to the table being electrocuted, and the stereo that's playing Green Day dips in music, but it was a battery operated stereo, so it shouldn't have had, nothing should have impacted it. So that was your first big clue of like, she's absolutely an alien. Then you get that moment
and her being able to survive such punishment.
Well, and that, fine. Her very flatly saying, I am an alien, and the murder part of the basement, and then her trying to have a reserved emotional reaction to this murder, I think was that clear indication. And then the third moment for me was when Jesse Plemons' character goes into the closet, and then obviously the calculator has worked to then beam him up to the mothership, and that's the reason it's gone off. And you get that very quick line of like, homemade explosives do go off. But for me, I was like, okay, I absolutely love that. So for someone like you watching it back a second time now, knowing, I think there is a rewatchability to it, and I do enjoy that.
I'm really split on the ending. So I had a suspicion because I was in the build up to this film, like I was scrolling through Facebook and it was a still of this film and it had like a caption written on it going, you just know that the twist in this film is that she's actually an alien. Like knowing the filmmaker is who he is. And so I was watching it with that sort of in the back of my mind, but I'd kind of compartmentalized it and I put it to one side and gone like, well, that's just conjecture on Facebook. Probably. So I'm going to go into this completely open-minded. And obviously, as the film progressed, it was the physicality of her body language when she's at the bottom of the stairs and you just see her head when Jesse Plemons has come back from
yeah,
giving his mother antifreeze and killing her, and the way she says how many Andromedans did you kill,
yeah,
and the way she moves changes and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, okay. But then there's still part of me like, well, she's quite, as a human, she's very clever. She's very calculating. She's been trying so many different things to try and confuse them.
yes, yeah.
Free, and I'm like, oh, she's taken it up to another level to be really elaborate in terms of a ruse to free herself. Obviously, yes, that wasn't the case, and then and the fact that she turns out to be an alien, I don't know whether I'm split on it. I was like, I don't know.
Do you think that was too obvious an answer?
Yes, maybe that's where I'm coming from. But then I'm thinking, if that wasn't the case, and then she simply survived, how would I feel if that was the way the film ended?
I think
would I feel that was truly satisfying? And it wasn't that kind of film. It wasn't like your standard, I guess, contemporary abduction movie, where that would have been the ending. What this was really is a critique, I suppose, on. I mean, this is my view, so it might actually be completely wide of the mark. But you feel like the fact that she's a really rich CEO of a tech company or a pharmaceutical company or whatever it was, probably a blend of the two, and the fact that Jesse Plemons' character is talking about aliens and control of humanity, I feel like we've got quite a metaphor there of how the 1% CEOs are maybe in control of governance or control of the way the Western world works, yada yada yada, and have that sort of switch that they can flick on and off to end things, which is kind of where the movie goes. So when I think of it like that, I kind of reconcile with it. I'm like, cool, good ending.
I think large chunks of it you can take the metaphor. Some of it was a bit ham-fisted for me, but I think by and large, what really made me chuckle, the recurring motif of the Earth being flat. Genuinely, like, it was such a subtle detail, and especially at the end when she drives the spear through what is just a flat plane of Earth, just to have that, like, there's certain elements like that I did enjoy. But yes, some of it, the kind of crazy tinfoil. Okay, why is he like this? And some of the answers were quite obvious. So obviously, it was childhood abuse and dying mother. I think if she wasn't an alien and he wasn't right, then what you have is a disservice to what is ultimately quite a tragic character. Yes, he goes on to murder a bunch of people, but he's murdering who he thinks is going to destroy the world. Yes, he's wrong, and actually the Andromedans were trying to save the world, and there was that, like, we can save humanity, and then eventually he being the reason why they've given up on humanity, or being a large part of the reason why they give up on humanity. It's all very funny and very charming, and I think when you put it in those bullet points of what are you trying to say, I think that's where he excels as a filmmaker. I think the way that we get there, some of it was great, some of it was wishy-washy. But you mentioned actually the cousin character and how that pendulum swung between who's right, who's wrong. Neither of them are right, or they're both right. It kind of fluctuates between that. But for me, the cousin character was the audience. And there is that moment, the first 5 minutes in, where we're in spoiler territory, so it's fine. Jesse Plemons' character coerces him into chemical castration. And there is an element of the film that does that to us as an audience, where it's like, I'm going to say these things at you for the next 2 hours, and you are going to be here for it. Certain people, like the people in my screening who did then step away, I could view as people that were like, I don't want to hear this. This is presented in too silly a way. But for the rest of us, there was that element of being coerced into the points that he was making. If I could give it an arbitrary score, I'm solid 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give it 6 or maybe a 7. I think as well, another thing I'd probably credit it with is that I didn't necessarily feel like the Jesse Plemons and his cousin, those two characters, being ridiculed by the film.
No, that's fair.
Like I believed quite a lot in how much he believed in what he was doing.
Yeah.
I think really helped that they weren't just, like being presented as full-on morons or whatever. But then maybe towards the end, Jesse Plemons' character, he does descend into madness really quickly, and when he comes back, like, I mean, he very easily, or his reaction to his cousin dying, I thought was interesting. He wasn't. So all Emma Stone got out of it was like a sprained, dislocated knee, and like this is like his only
person.
His only friend. Also, that moment when, because bless him, he, as you say, he was coerced, wasn't he? The cousin, and he doesn't have a full grasp or understanding of really what he signed up for. And that moment when Emma Stone sort of convinces him to let her go because she's going to take him to space, and he blows his own head off.
Yeah.
A brilliant piece of shocking cinema. I mean,
for sure.
People in my screening gasped. I was like, I imagine people in your screening gasped.
We had some gasps. It then became the catalyst for what was chaos for the rest of the film.
Yes.
Jesse Plemons' character immediately goes murder. He just immediately switches to violence, which I think is such a truism of being human. That suddenly, the threat is real. I've got a police officer here who I already hate. I'm going to now smash his face in with a shovel. Is like perfect. So yes. I agree with you. As a 5-minute piece of like shock cinema, was pretty perfect.
I mean, the police officer is an interesting layer of sort of, I feel bummed out because when I was a babysitter, I abused you. I think I'm reading that correctly.
100%. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is dark.
Yeah.
We put that to the mix.
So dark.
And that character's been like, and just sort of Jesse Plemons is like, he's got bigger things on his mind, so he just throw away, goes, oh, it's cool. Like, but I think you then see when shit hits the fan, we hear the shotgun from inside the basement, but outside when he's with the police officer, and he kills him obviously because he thinks that he's going to get exposed. But then the second and third whack.
Oh, that felt personal.
He unleashes like that's personal vendetta. I think he was that again, which made that whole sequence all the more impactful. You had the shock of the cousin shooting himself, and then you had the shock of the violence outside. Great fun musical score as well throughout the whole film. That really,
oh my god,
even the most mundane of shots, it elevated.
Here's a house, and then you've just got like a cacophony of noise.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Amazing.
That I really enjoyed as well. Yes. I think you're right. A 6 or a 7 out of 10. In a group chat with our friend Nick, you mentioned you didn't like you questioned some of the things that Jesse Plemons' character did, some of the choices he made. What were those?
Only off the back of our friend Nick is convinced that I am Jesse Plemons, and in certain lights and in certain angles and with certain haircuts, I can see it. But he really believes that I look like Jesse Plemons, to the point where he doesn't refer to him as Jesse Plemons. He refers to him as Rhys Stacey. We used to live together, and one evening he came back from seeing Civil War, of which Jesse Plemons plays an incredibly racist far right nutcase who basically just is a murderer, and it's a very, very tense, very disgusting scene. And Nick came back and he wouldn't talk to me for an hour. And I said, "What's up?" And he was like, "I know what you did." So it was less when I go and see a film with Jesse Plemons in.
Oh right, you just felt
know in the back of my mind that Nick will have watched this film, and if Jesse has done some terrible things, I will be on the receiving end of that.
You felt the weight of his actions. I see. Because reflecting on our conversation here, I was like, well, you seem to be sort of running along with everything, all the choices that were made. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I think what I like about the film is that it was beguiling. It had those shocking elements. It had those fun, twisted elements. It was unique in terms of, there's not been many other films quite like that have come out, certainly this year.
This is true.
And it was enjoyed. I really enjoy when I'm in a cinema and there's an engaged audience who are running along with the rhythm and the beat of the film that's going on screen.
Yes,
and I've really come to cherish that sort of experience.
More films like that all day long.
100%, yeah. And it ranges from the last Bridget Jones movie, which we mentioned in the first episode, had similar engagement from an audience. Luckily, nobody blew their head off in that film. That would have changed the vibe. In The Roses, there was a similar engagement of audience. In this, there was a similar engagement of audience in those three very different films. So that is enjoyable. And being aware of that and being in tune with that. Whereas I think before, there's been times, and maybe it just helps. It helped that I was in a small screen and there was a good amount of people to make it feel full. Whereas I think when I saw like Dune Part 2, it was a bigger screening, but not many. It was at a time like your screening of this, where it felt quite empty. So in terms of the feeling and the emotion and the weight of the film, which was incredible, it was a solo experience. I was experiencing it just through my own eyes and ears. Whereas with these other screenings I just mentioned, I was also experiencing it for everybody else as well,
which does make the experience. It makes or breaks an experience of a film, and so I read in the news. So Zach Cregger, who I'm becoming increasingly a bigger and bigger fan of, is currently having a fight with Netflix about what would be his fourth film, because they've gone back on an agreement that the film would have a theatrical release first before hitting streaming. And he's a big proponent of that's important. Now, the thing that confuses me about Netflix is when they have these big budget features and they really get behind an auteur to make, what essentially they think is content for them, they do put it in the cinema. They don't do it enough, and the run perhaps isn't that long. But Frankenstein, for example, did get that theatrical release.
About 3 weeks, I think.
And it was a good. That's actually quite a good run. I didn't know it was that long.
I think it might still be. It's at least 2, I think.
Right.
And I can quickly look that up, and since the 7th of November, it's been on Netflix. My cat is making noises and playing with things. Frankenstein. We're doing a nice little segue into my discussion of Frankenstein here, which I like. Cinema release. October 17th. So yeah, that must be 3 weeks.
There we go. That's good. I'm glad that is the case.
I think you still can catch it in cinemas as well.
Well, my question to you would be, because this is the film I haven't seen yet, going off the back of what you were saying of an audience can make or break a film, and you share a collective energy. You today watched Frankenstein, but you didn't watch it in the theaters. You did stream it.
I did.
How was that as an experience?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think my preference was to go see it in cinema because of the nature of the film, having seen the trailers, knowing the filmmaker, I thought that needs to be enjoyed on the big screen, but life and time got in the way. So Netflix it was. And what I find interesting about it, I think the fact that it's been in cinemas, it's one of the longest releases a Netflix film has got in cinemas, which I think goes to show how much they admire or appreciate the fact that they've got a filmmaker like Guillermo del Toro making films for them. The likes of Knives Out, I think that Glass Onion one only got a week. I don't know how much the next one's this new one coming out is going to get, which I'm really looking forward to. Wake Up, Dead Man. So yeah, I sat down I actually started to watch it on the day it came out, and I made some notes. Straight off the bat, I thought for a Netflix film, the runtime's 2 hours and 32 minutes.
Amazing.
Netflix film is too long.
Oh, fine.
No, sorry to burst your bubble. Because Netflix's mandate is obviously that they obviously have that thing where they talk about second screen. So they're wrestling for attention in the household with the fact that people are on their phones, they're on their laptops, there's stuff going on around in the house, and they need to be able to keep up with what's on screen, not lose interest, dip in and out in terms of attention. I mean, this is a really sad conversation to talk about, but this is kind of what
insanity.
And know where they are. And I think for a film on Netflix to go beyond 2 hours kind of goes against that. But then that would go back to their faith in the filmmaker, the fact that they've given it quite a long, for them, theatrical release. And we're talking about differences in theatrical releases. Greta Gerwig with her Narnia films, she's getting IMAX. It's a Netflix, but it's full cinema release, I think.
Good.
I think they're actually starting with the first Narnia book, Magician's Nephew, which would be nice.
That's what I've read as well, and I'm absolutely stoked.
To see that put to screen, I think would be amazing. Anyway, back on this. I think to fight the that second screen challenge, there is an element of narration in this Frankenstein film. You have narration from Frankenstein and sort of flashbacks of his viewpoint of the story, and then you have the same from Frankenstein's monster, Jacob Elordi, doing some narration and telling the story from his perspective. So I think that helps fight that a little bit, that second screen thing. And as a story, I mean, I wasn't against the narration in Frankenstein. It was a long film, and it was helping me sort of get along through it. In the cinema, I don't know how I would have felt about that. I probably would have felt in the cinema it might have been tad unnecessary. Other things I felt were unnecessary was Oscar Isaac putting on like that typical mad English scientist voice. I didn't think the film needed that. I think even though like it was set in like, you know, you had that sort of I guess it's Victorian era Mary Shelley, or is it?
Yeah.
And you know, that sort of that accent would make sense. I think Oscar Isaac's voice is such a compelling part of his acting arsenal. To have his natural voice, I think would have really worked for the character of the film.
Fine.
And wouldn't have hurt the verisimilitude much. We also spent a lot of time at the start with his childhood backstory. And I was thinking, 2.5 hour film, we're spending too much time before we're really getting going, which I don't think we necessarily needed. I think you could have.
Is that
there was
strange?
points in it where you could have cut to and still understood his drive, his desire to create this being. If I'm being brutally honest, we didn't need to see that, like. You know,
but also, it's a 200-year-old story. We know it. Yes. We know it as well. So that
could be another part of like it's Frankenstein for this generation. So you got to clue them in on what's going on. How you know how many people aged like 12 and up. Well, actually, you probably couldn't watch this if you were 12. There's some violent bits. 15 to 20. What percentage of them have read Frankenstein? I guess we can only speculate. But anyway, I mean, I haven't read it cover to cover anyway. So again, there's bits of it that I need to know about. So anyway, the film itself, I enjoyed. I much preferred it when Jacob Elordi's monster took a hold of the story, and we were feeling things more from his perspective. That really worked, and you felt really endeared to the monster, which is obviously the point of the book. And the story itself is you kind of realise that the real monster is Victor Frankenstein himself.
Yeah.
So that was good. But then at the same time, for a 2.5 hour movie, I didn't really feel like a lot happened.
Oh.
It was a case of sort of why you wanted to create the monster, creating the monster, being trying to abolish his creation trying to find himself, his creation trying to reconcile or get something from, or get revenge on Frankenstein. You know, I kind of again, it was beautiful, which isn't a surprise because Guillermo.
Well, I think that's going to be the case. Did it feel grand? Big set.
It felt grander it felt grander from the moment the monster was created.
Okay.
And the scene where there was rain, there was storm, there was Oscar Isaac bouncing around the room trying to create the monster. That was, I thought, was remarkable. I was really wondering whether we were going to get his version of It's Alive.
The way you say that means that we didn't.
Yeah, sorry, apologies. But I won't tell you the way that he's I won't tell you the way he's introduced. They're introduced to each other. So that's I like the way that was handled was good. So I would say I preferred Bugonia. And I don't know whether my experience or my review of it would have been different had I watched it in the cinema.
I think there's people that I've spoken to, and I think it's a time thing. But Jacob Elordi as the monster,
great bit of casting, I would say as well. He's really good.
Fantastic. Because there's certain people that I've spoken to that haven't shifted that's the guy from Euphoria, that's the guy from the kissing booth. That actually the translation into, and I mean not to offend anybody here, but serious acting, which is what this is. And I guess there's an element of him in Saltburn. He's going to be in, is it Wuthering Heights?
He's going to be in that, yeah.
As well. I know that's going to be like a slightly farcical, ridiculous take on Wuthering Heights, but still, that I'm glad to know that you thought he was a good casting.
In Euphoria, he has to do some pretty heavy stuff. Like his character is not a nice person.
No, that's true.
He's basically emotionally manipulative and narcissist, and emotionally abusive to basically all the girls that flock to him. And has a very difficult father figure. So it's not something that he's not come into already. And I think he's a very talented actor, and he embodies the physicality of the monster really well, but the fear, the pain, the emotion of the monster really well. And I think that was, the movie kind of lives or dies, doesn't it, on how good, compelling the monster is.
How strong that is, yeah.
And that held up. I think as amazing as he is, Oscar Isaac didn't leave as much of an impression as Victor Frankenstein, which is a shame.
Because he was overshadowed, or the part actually wasn't that strong.
Yeah, I don't think the part was that strong, really, and there wasn't much. Yeah, Mia Goth in it was really good as well.
Love her.
Elizabeth. That's my first time watching her in anything.
Ooh, and you thought she was good?
Yeah, nice introduction to her, I thought. So yeah, I give it a 6 out of 10.
Ooh,
I think I'd give Bugonia a 7.
Based on your review, however, because now I've got more.
It's well worth watching, though.
Yeah, I think I'm going to see if I can see it, if it is still available, in the theatre, because I think there's certain. I know that story well. we grew up pretty much in the town that it was written.
Correct. We have frequented the Weatherspoons that is named after Mary Shelley.
Opposite the cemetery she's buried in, which is
and there used to be a theatre that the Mary Shelley Theatre used to be, I think, pre-COVID, which was where she resided when she wrote the book, I believe, I think that's where that is. But sadly, that's no longer open. Yes, sorry, I kind of cut off your trail of thought.
No, not at all. I think, from being it feels like that's like a hometown victory. Ultimately, that and a somewhat good football team is what we got from Bournemouth. So there is that interest of going and seeing it. But yeah, I feel like I'll probably miss a big audience. But I think if one of the thoughts actually just circling
invite
back,
10 people to your front living room, you can recreate that sort of experience.
That's true. That's true. But you what you were saying about the second screen and the narrative, the voiceover, one of the thoughts I had was, from a sound design point of view, do we think filmmakers now have to get clever, more creative, more experimental, because the film is now going to be experienced a lot more audibly if I'm sat there looking at my phone? So is that a positive?
I really don't know. So I haven't seen it, but Catherine Bigelow's House of Dynamite is a film that's told through 4 different perspectives, but a lot of the dialogue and a lot of what's occurring are heard pretty much exactly the same in each perspective. You're just looking at a different character.
Oh, so it'll have those.
I think is a 100% a decision made because it was going on Netflix. And if you look away for a bit, or you're not paying attention, and it's being told from a different perspective, and you're hearing completely new dialogue, you would maybe come out
I'm tuned out.
Whereas it's exactly the same. You're like, okay, I'm familiar. I know what's going on. Blah 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 blah. Which is, I think, a shame, because I think different perspective movies really work when you get a complete shift of perspective. You get a complete different journey from A to B. But that's again. But I think, to your point, I think most filmmakers aren't concerning themselves with that. I think, the Nolans, the Scorseses, the Ridley Scotts, or the Ari Asters,
prioritizing cinema releases.
They're thinking about it in the traditional sense, it being enjoyed on the big screen. My cat keeps moving my screen. Whereas I don't know whether Guillermo del Toro would have thought of it in that way, but it was kind of the narration came in a sort of like the bridging between sequences or set pieces. So this chapter, thoughts and feelings on that chapter, let me tell you where we're going next, and then you wouldn't hear anything for a while. That's how that was used, which again could be good if it could maybe arrest you if you were looking at something or you were distracted, to like, oh, there's a gear change,
actually call you back to.
So yeah, but I think definitely worth watching.
Nice.
Yeah. Quickly then, let's end on what we think should be, or will be, or we hope will be worth watching next. What's our plans?
Before we started recording, I said a film.
You did.
It's completely escaped my brain.
So it hasn't made much of an impact. You said it was based on a book.
I'll let you go, and I'm definitely not Googling anything
about it. We mentioned Wicked of the past, didn't we? In past episodes, we mentioned those. So there's a film, Die My Love, with Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence, a young couple where I think Jennifer Lawrence's character sort of descends into sort of paranoia, I believe. I don't know a lot about it. I just know that it's kind of an intense psychological drama with 2 of the best actors going. So that's enough to convince me to go watch it. There's obviously Daniel Day-Lewis's return to acting in Anemone, which his son has written and directed, with also Sean Bean in. Again, I don't know a whole lot about the plot of that film. I don't think much has been served up in terms of the trailers, really. It's two brothers, Daniel Day-Lewis and Sean Bean, estranged, who come back together, and drama and sort of...
From what I can understand, it's more Terrence Malick, poetic ruminations, beautiful lingering shots, rather than a direct, like
more
now.
flavour than actual sustenance.
Yeah.
Which my personal take. I don't really chive with. I prefer more essence to what's actually. I don't need vibes. I like content plus vibes. We're talking today's language. Have you conjured anything else from your?
I have.
Yes.
It is the adaptation of one of my favourite books, which is Grief is the Thing with Feathers. I believe it's going straight onto Netflix mid to end of November, called The Thing with Feathers, which is David Thewlis playing a crow that is there to help Benedict Cumberbatch and his two children get over the death of their mother. Okay. The book is less horror and more... I mean, it's a mixture of many, many things, and that is exactly right. Whereas from what I can understand, this film is being presented in a more horror, more scary light. So I'm really, really curious to see how they bring that to life. If I look over at my bookshelf, I own 5 copies of Grief is the Thing with Feathers, 3 of them signed. I absolutely adore the book. So I really hope that the film does it justice.
Yeah, that's a good
and
one.
I think it's appalling that I forgot. Say that again?
It says it's out on the 21st of November, so not long to wait.
Perfect.
Perfect indeed. And talking about waiting, I think I'm keeping you from your dinner now.
That's quite right. I'm also terrified because I've got the little laptop battery button that says 4%, and I'm absolutely terrified because I've been sat here trying to pull this cable across, which is now unplugged. Can't do it.
Well, I think that's a good place to end then. So, thank you, Rhys, for joining me once again. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. Make sure you do all the likes and subscribes and the comments. If you've seen Bugonia and Frankenstein, let us know what you think in the comments. And make sure you keep up to date with Film News Blitz as well. www.filmnewsblitz.com, @FilmNewsBlitz on all the socials, where you'll find us. So cool. There we go. Adios.
Beautiful.